Okay, quick pipeline on how to take a ZBrush model that was made from a square primitive, one of these little guys right here, a cube primitive, and take that into another program, specifically Cinema 4D 64-bit running on Vista, and generate a usable UV map that you can then cut texture maps, displacement maps, and normal maps that'll be usable in other programs, as opposed to ZBrush's native UV tiles, which are a little wonky and kind of weird. So anyway, here we go. This is the skull model I've been working on, just very vaguely or very loosely. Only got a few subdivision levels, nothing fancy. It tops out right now at 9800 polys. No real detail, just a basic skull shape. That's what I'm working on for this little demo. So, alright. First thing we're going to do is drop it down to its lowest subdivision level. I'm going to go to UV map. I'm going to click on GUV tiles. That's going to create the crazy texture map here that you'll see if I go create new from UV. You'll see this lovely patchwork quilt here that's not very helpful when it comes to painting in textures. So I'm going to turn that texture off, go to my export. I'm going to unselect group, and I'm going to export this as an object file. I'm going to save this as my model for unwrap. Okay, I'm going to jump over to Cinema 4D, open it up, and there it is. It's called for unwrap. I'm not going to bother to mess with the scale at all. I don't know what that might do to later on, and I'm not intending this to be for animation or anything fancy. I don't understand how to do that stuff anyway, so I'm keeping this simple. I'm going to click Path Selection on the Edge tool and click over here on Add to Selection, so that anytime I drag and click, it just keeps adding to the selection instead of having to hold down the shift and go back and add more to it and run the risk of losing your selection. So I'm going to breeze through this real quick. I already know which polys to select because I've done this a couple of times just to make sure it worked. I'm going to do a cut across the forehead, a cut across the chin, and one right down the middle of the skull, all the way back around to where it joins up with the chin again. This is going to give me, hopefully, a nice unwrapped UV. And there we go. Alright, so show you what this looks like from a distance. See? Okay. I'm going to store a selection. You can see over here that pops up this little triangle which shows that I have an edge selection. I'm going to go to UV edit mode, click on the frontal plane here. When I click on the polygon edit tool, you'll see that the crazy cubic little UV tiles pop up over here, and that's what we're going to get rid of. I'm going to go to projection, frontal, gives us a nice frontal view of the model. I'm going to relax, and despite what I read about using LSCM, I'm using ABF because that's what seems to work better at this point. I don't have any pin points selected, it's just the edge selection. I'm going to apply, and it gives me a nice, boom, unwrapped skull. I'm going to select it all because I find that, at least in my eyes, it works better if I have it straightened out. Move this down and scale it down to fit inside of the UV space. Oops. Scale tool didn't select there. There we go. That. Try to recenter it again. A little bit big still, just to be safe. There we go. Okay. So now I've got a little bit of space around the edges, and there's a nice UV. Go to UV commands, store UV, and I'm going to export the whole deal back out as a wavefront. Again, this time calling it Skull 3 Unwrapped. And save. Now I can jump back over to ZBrush. I'm going to initialize it and get rid of everything that I've got here. Start fresh. Reopen up my original base mesh, which I have tucked away over here. There it is. All of its basic glory. I'm going to go to import, actually make sure that nothing is selected here in import. I'm going to show you just real quick that there's nothing loaded in the UV maps because I initialized it and got rid of what I had loaded previously. I'm going to import and import the unwrapped model. Now, what I read in the tutorial said I needed to store and switch over morph targets, and every time I tried to do that, I got crazy errors where my mesh basically exploded. I don't know if that's because I'm using Vista 64-bit or what, but I found that by ignoring that step and just doing the import, ZBrush gave me this nice little message that says, the topology of the mesh has changed. Do you want to keep the high resolution details? I click yes, and boom, done. Take off the mask that it throws on there arbitrarily, and I can show you that the geometry is all still there on my subdivisions. And now if I come to UVs, you see that there is a UV stored. And if I go texture from UV, I get a nice, albeit upside down, texture map. Fixed easy enough, just go flip vertical, new from UV map, and there it is. Now if I take that and go, oops, wrong one, go to polypaint, poly from texture, that turns off the texture and applies that directly to the polypaint. Turn off Z-add, go to fill object with the white, see the white color here, I'm going to fill the model with the white. You don't see the white because I don't have a white material selected, but it's there. Now if I go back to my texture map and select new from polypaint, I get a nice white texture map. So now I can save that out to do whatever with. If I want to do a quick test here, I can turn the texture back off, make sure I have colorize on. I'm going to select a material that's easier to work with, put on a nice color, and do a little polypaint test. And put on symmetry, and there we go. Okay, nice polypaint test. I could, if I wanted to, up my subdivisions even more and give myself more resolution, but it looks like there's enough resolution there to maintain decent pixel coverage. So anyway, there we go. Now I can go back to my texture map, click new from polypaint, and voila, I have polypaint applied directly to the texture. Clone, come over to my textures, oops, export that out as texture TIFF, and I'm done. Now I can load this back up in Cinema 4D, apply that texture on the Material tab, and render it out, and it'll be good. I hope this helps somebody out there. Again, I'm by no means an expert at this stuff. I'm still learning. But if you have any tips or have any questions, post, and either I'll do what I can to help you or help you find the information. And if you've got some good knowledge, share it with the rest of us. Yeah, good luck, have fun, and thanks for watching.